specifically the concept-based curriculum, which really is a foundation to what MYP is all about in the International Baccalaureate. To do so, we must first take a look at what a concept-driven curriculum is. For many of us, especially those of us who are a little bit older or more experienced, you might say, we grew up in an era where we were educated mostly on topics and skills. That was the driving force behind our education. However, research shows if we can add in a piece of conceptual understanding, we are going to raise the level of what our students understand overall. We will have greater retention for them with what we're trying to teach them. The MYP embraces a concept-driven curriculum by offering a flexible framework that allows for you to use any state, local, national requirements to be taught. We don't tell you what to teach, we just offer suggestions for how to get there in the end. So let's first talk about what concepts are and what they aren't. I love this definition by Dr. H. Lynn Erickson. A concept serves as an integrating lens, and it encourages the transfer of ideas within and across the disciplines as students search for patterns and connections in the creation of new knowledge. It really is about bringing in just a greater focus to learning for students. Characteristics of concepts, you can see here, they're timeless, they're universal, and they're abstract. I always give like the example of in my workshops that a concept might be the word leader, but George Washington is not a concept, he's a topic. He's a US president. You can see there's some subject-specific examples listed here, things like aesthetics or change, communication, global interactions. Those are some examples. The non-examples would be they are not skills and they are not topics. So that's what we have to embrace around when we're thinking about what a concept is. In the MYP, we talk about key concepts. These are macro concepts. They're very large and they can apply to any different subject. Here are the 16 concepts, the macro concepts or key concepts for MYP. Just take a look around the circle, and think to yourself which one of these would apply to individuals and societies. If you're thinking, well, just about all of them, then you are correct. That's part of what makes these macro concepts is they can apply to many different things. The IB, however, in an effort to make sure that all 16 of these concepts are covered over the different curricula, they have assigned or suggested, key concepts for each subject area. And these 4 are the suggested key concepts for individuals and societies. That does not mean that you have to use those 4. You could certainly use a different one, but these are the 4 they're hoping that you'll take a look at. In my practice, in my units, I usually had 4 or 5 units a year, and I made sure I hit all 4 of these in my curricula, but that is not a requirement. So think about it for just a moment. Think about what your either your next unit of study is going to be or something coming up right after that, something future. Which of the key concepts would you use to address or would you address in that unit? And I just put the 4 assigned ones down here because I think we can probably use one of those 4. So just think about what you're going to be teaching and which of those key concepts would fit it. Maybe write that down on a little sticky note. In the MYP, we also have related concepts. These are also called micro concepts because they're a little bit smaller in focus. They just are a little bit more discipline specific, and each discipline has 12 related concepts. Now, within individuals and societies, there are several different disciplines. We have things like history and geography and economics. So I have created a chart here that you'll see where I've taken all of the related concepts for all areas of individuals and societies, and I've put it on one chart. So just take a minute to read over this chart and just take a look at them. You'll notice, for example, that culture is on this chart. Culture can be a macro concept, a big idea that applies to many subjects, but we really can put the discipline focus on it with individuals and societies. So our next step is for you to think about what related concept you would address in the unit. I suggest that you only start with one or two at the most. If you have too many, it's just going to make your unit a little bit more difficult, but I would stick with one or two at this phase. The MYP unit planner, which you're going to be creating a copy of for me soon, is looks like this at the top. This is called the inquiry section, and the first two boxes identify the key and related concept, and it answers the question, what are we learning conceptually? So for you, like for me, here's an example. My key concept is global interactions, and my related concept is ideology. Within that, the next step would be thinking about how could I merge those two ideas into what we call a conceptual understanding. Conceptual understandings show a relationship between two or more concepts. These understandings are timeless and universal, and they merge them into a sentence. If you think about just creating a sentence with your 2 words or 3 words, you want to use an active present tense verb. I always suggest avoiding things like be, have, impact, influence, and affect, because those are just kind of very generic verbs, if you would. You want to avoid proper nouns and pronouns, and use a qualifier if it's not always true. So here's what an example would look like, taking global interactions and ideology and merging them into a sentence. And my sentence is, ideology can foster global interactions. So just take a moment to think about it. That's what you're going to be doing, is taking your key concept and your related concept and merging it together in a sentence.